Again, welcome to Java Programming 1. In this lectures, we're going to continue with the loops, that's flow of control. So our main objective in this lectures is learn how to design a loop and also using the while and also the do while loops. So we know Java have at least 3 different types of loops: the while loop, the do while, and also for loop. So Java loop statements is a portion of a program that repeats a statement or a group of statements called a loop. So the whole concept of looping is again repeating a statement over and over again. So a very simple example, if I want to find the sum of numbers from 1 to 50, that is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to 50, I don't want to declare 50 variables and add all the values together. Or I don't want to add the numbers 1, 2, 3 up to 50. So what I can do is that I can write only one statement to add 2 values. Then as the result will go to another variable. Then next we're going to add the next value to that variable. Then we add next to that variable up to 50 times. So what we are trying to say here is that in a for loop or in a while loop, I can write a statement to add 2 values, and I will let the loop execute. I'll give the loop a condition that will make it execute 50 times. So I'm going to add from 1 to 50. So again, the core concept of looping is to repeat a statement. So here we say a portion of a program that repeats a statement or a group of statements. It's called a loop. So also the statement or the group of statements to repeated is called the body of the loop. And a loop could be used to compute grades for each student in a class. And we can use it to compute a sum of numbers from maybe 1 to 200, or a product of a numbers, or a factorial of a numbers of a specific number. So the whole concept of a looping is being able to repeat a statement over and over again. And also there must be a means of exiting the loop. Otherwise, we are going to have what we call the infinity loop, which means the loop will execute forever. So we start with the while statement, which is also called the while loop. And here we say that a while statement repeats while a control Boolean expression remains true. So in a while loop, we have a condition. When the condition is true, again, the loop will execute. When the condition becomes false, we'll exit from the loop, which means the loop will stop or terminate. So a while statement repeats until the control Boolean expression remains true. Also, the loop body typically contains an action that automatically causes the controlling Boolean expression to become false. So what we're trying to say is that, again, if we are adding the values from 1 to 50, we are going to use the loop. We add the values 1, 2 up to 50. The next to add 51, our condition will be false because we can only execute 50 times. So that's when the loop will stop or terminate. So we have an example here. The code is in the next slide. So for example, we have a loop, a while loop, and we have a condition that if the value we enter is less than or equal to the number, then we are going to print it. So for example, here we have a loop. When the user enters 2, it's going to print 1, 2. When the user enters 3, it's going to print 1, 2, 3. So our goal here is that whatever value we enter, the loop will execute as many times as we want. So for example, here we enter 0, the loop will not execute. So this is how this loop will work. So we have the statement while. Count here will be what we call the counter variable or the loop variable. So we're going to declare the variable count and initialize it to 1. So the count variable will be outside. And also we have to declare, because again, we went through variables. Anytime we are going to use a variable in Java program, we need to declare the variable first. Since count is the variable that will keep count of how many times the loop will execute, we also need to initialize it. So for example, I may have int count equal to 1, which means I'll start the count from 1. And I'll declare variable number. Then now I will tell the user to enter a number. So I'll use the scanner class as a user to enter the number. Now, if user enter, let's say user enter 10, we will say that, okay, is count less than or equal to 10? No, we start the count from 1. So it's 1 less than or equal to 10, true. So if it's true, then we print the count. We are going to print 1. Then we increment the count. Again, this is the increment operator. We talked about this already. So I'll increment the count to 2. Then we go back to our while loop condition. Is 2 less than or equal to 10? Yes. Then we are going to print 2. We increment to 3. Is 3 less than or equal to 10? Yes. So this condition here will let us print count from 1 to 10. Now when we reach 10, we increment to 11. Is 11 less than or equal to 10? No. So this is when the while loop will stop. That will terminate. So we saw the previous example here. The first output, enter a number, we enter 2. So you see that only 1 and 2 print. So why? I enter 2. Is 1 less than or equal to 2? Yes. So system.out.print the 1. Count is 1. We increment count to 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 2? Yes. So we print 2. So we print 1 and 2. Then we increment the count to 3. Is 3 less than or equal to number? No. So that's false. So the loop will stop. So again, this is the flow diagram for it. So we start. We're going to check our condition. Is the count less than or equal to the number? If it's false, then we end the loop. If it's true, then we execute the system.out.print to print the count value. Then we increment the count by 1. Then we go back again, check the condition. If it's true, we again print, increment the count by 1 again. And then we check the condition. If it's false, then we stop, we end the loop. So this is the syntax for the while statement. We say while, again, all the letters here are lowercase W-H-I-L-E, while. Then we have our Boolean expression, that's the condition. Then the body statement, this is where if the condition, the Boolean expression is true, then we are going to execute the body statement. If it's false, then we exit from the loop. Here also is if we have more than one statement, here we have 2 statements, then we have to put it in parentheses. This is the same concept as selection statement. I'll use the term compound statement. If we have 2 or more statements, we have to have a curly brace. Otherwise, if we remove the curly brace, only the first statement will affect the while loop, not the second statement. So this is the syntax diagram. While the Boolean expression, if it's true, then we execute the body. Then we check again. If the condition is false, we exit from the loop. So we start, we check our while loop condition, Boolean expression. Is it true? Yes. Execute the body, then go back. Check again. Is it true? Execute the body, go back again. We check the condition, this time is false, then we exit from the loop or end the loop. So the next one is the do-while statement. This is also called a do-while loop. Now the difference between do-while and while loop is that in while loop, when we check the condition the first time and the condition is false, nothing will happen. There will be no any execution. But with do-while loop, we are going to execute the statement once before we check. So at least the statement will execute once. So that's what we say, similar to a while statement, except that the loop body executes at least once. So the syntax, we can see from the syntax here, do the body statement will execute. When we execute before we check the condition. If the condition is true, then we execute again. If condition is false, we end the loop. So this is an example of a do-while loop. This time we enter number 2, and the same concept. If the value is less than the 2, 1 is less than 2, then we print 1. We increment to 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 2? Yes, we print. Then next we cannot print. So the same example 3. And now the difference, we can see that the 2 programs are doing the same thing. But the difference is that the while loop, when there is no, in the while loop, the first condition here is true, so it will execute. Do while also will execute. So here, when the first condition is true, the while loop and do while give us the same results. But you can see in our previous example, if I enter a number 0, is 0 less than, is 1 less than or equal to 0? Or is 0 greater than 1? No. So in the while loop, when we enter 0, nothing print. But with the do while, we are going to print the first value before we check the condition. So the loop body always executes at least once before we check the condition. In a while loop, we check the condition first. Is 1 greater than 0? Or is 0 less than 1? Yes. But is 0 greater than 1? No. Is 1 greater than 0? Yes. But in our condition, we are checking first if the counter 1 is less than or equal to 0. We know 1 is greater, so there will be no any execution. But here, we are going to execute first before we check if, again, 1 is greater than or less than 0, less than or equal to 0. So that's the statement here. You can see here, do, first of all, we print the 1 before we check. Is 1 less than or equal to 0? And that's false. 1 is greater than 0. So but again, before we come out of the loop, we already execute once. But with while loop, we come first and check. Is 1 less than or equal to 0? No, it's false. So nothing will happen. But we do while, we execute our first statement before we check condition. So first, the loop body is executed. We do while the loop body will execute. Then the Boolean expression is checked. As long as it is true, the loop will keep executing. Then anytime it becomes false, the loop will exit. So this is an example of the do while. So do whatever the body execution while then we check our condition. So we execute our body first, then we check the condition. If the condition is true, go back, execute again. We check condition again. If it's true, we execute, then we check again. If it's false, we get out of the loop. So we also said that we have something called the infinity loops. Infinity loops are the loops that, again, will execute forever. So a loop which repeats without ever ending is called the infinity loop. Infinity loop, what causes infinity loop is that the condition that make it false will never come, because we want a false condition to exit from the loop. So if there's no any false and always the condition is true, then the loop will keep executing. So here we say that if the controlling Boolean expression never becomes false, a while loop or a do while loop will repeat without ending. A negative growth rate in the preceding program causes the total bulk volume always to be less than house volume. So this is an example which shows that the loop never ends. So we see the example. So nested loop, again, is a loop that is inside another loop. So a body of a loop can contain any kind of state, including another loop. So for example, when I have a loop outside, I'll check the condition. If the condition is false, I can't go in the next loop inside. But if the condition is true, then I can go to the loop inside. Then if the condition there is true, I will execute everything. Then when it becomes false, I'll come back to the outside loop to continue checking. But if outside loop is false, can't go inside. I will just exit all the loop. So this will be the conclusion of our short lectures on Java loops. Okay, here we went through what is a while loop, what is a do while, what is infinity, the concept of infinity loop, and what is a nested loop. So in a while loop, we saw the syntax. We have a counter, then we check the counter with whatever condition we need. Condition is true, we execute. If condition is false, we get out of the loop, exit the loop. Do while means we do something first. We execute our condition first before we check our condition. So with the while loop, we check the condition first before we even execute the first time. But do while, we rather execute first before we check our condition. Then infinity loop is a loop that will continue executing forever. What is missing in infinity loop is the condition that will be false so that we can exit or stop the loop or exit from the loop. So again, that's the conclusion of these lectures. And again, thank you.